Hello everybody. Here I have an Asteroids board, Atari Asteroids. This comes from Loki Falkor over on the Claw forum. Hope I said that right. Asteroids. So what we're going to do to start this is asteroids on the pinout. If you look over here on the pinout, you see where it says 36 volts AC? Well, I am not going to run 36 volts AC up to this board. I'm going to run positive and negative 22 volts. And how I'm going to accomplish that is I'm going to remove all these diodes, because on an Asteroids repair, I always replace these anyway. And I'm just going to put in a jumper on this second one and the last one, and then you run 22 positive right here and on the third pin, and on the opposite side of the board, the third pin on the bottom is where you put your negative 22, and they basically just come in and go right to these regulators, positive and negative 22. But that is how I'm going to handle it. And then once it's done and everything, I'll remove my jumpers and I'll put the what are they, 1N 4007 diodes, 4003 up right here. So that's how I'm going to do it. So I have to wire up a harness because I do not have one, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. Alright, let me get to it. Okay, I got the Asteroids board hooked up. I got my wiring harness done. I've actually got it plugged in right now. We got 5 volts. This is what I'm using for a monitor. This old junk oscilloscope. Okay, I got it plugged into power right now, and I'm just going through and checking some of my voltages. There's my 2 jumpers there. And I'll hook to this one. Should be, oops. This one should be supplying the positive voltage, which it is, positive. And this other one is supplying the negative voltage. And there it is. Okay, so let's check our regulators. This one is a 7915, which is a negative 15 volt regulator. You got common, in, I don't want to short these. There's the in, and here is the out. Negative 15.18. That looks good. Now our 2 positive voltage regulators. This is in, common, out. So we got input. This is a 7805, which is a 5 volt regulator. Here's the common, which is nothing. Just that's input, common. And this is the output. Nothing. There's nothing on the 5 volt. Now we'll move on to the 7815. This is input, common, output. There's nothing. There's no output to these 2 positive regulators. These 2 positive regulators are fried. So first things first, I'm going to have to replace those. Excuse me, I got a bit of a cold. You know, this board has had a lot of prior work to it, and first thing I did was I went through and I looked at all of it, and there's nothing obvious that looks bad to me. There's an awful lot of flux underneath, like where these were soldered in. There's an awful lot of solder flux. I'm going to have to clean this board with some alcohol and a toothbrush. So I'll do that. But for now, first things first, I'm going to replace the 2 positive regulators. Get that power up to this vector section. As negative 15 and positive 15 is what runs these amplifiers. So there's not going to be any kind of vector video with no power. So, and the 5 volts runs the DACs. So these aren't being run either. Okay, I'll get to that. Okay, we got our new regulators in. And it's a new 7805, a new 7815. So I'm going to get my meter ready. And hopefully there isn't something that was on this board that made those things blow up, because it could very well just blow up again. We'll see. Okay, I'm going to plug it in. No smoke. No smoke. That's good. Well, let me get my lead here. And we're going to probe right on the output. And there's our, okay, we got our 15 positive and there's our 5 positive. Very good. Okay, now we've got our voltage to the vector section now. So now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug it, and I'm going to hook up my scope to the Z and the Y, or the X, Y, and Z outputs. This thing, I don't think the Z input works, so you'll see the traces and stuff. That's all I got. So, all right, I'm going to unplug it and hook up. Be right back. Okay, for first time plugging this thing in, and it's hooked up to X and Y. And yeah, I get nothing. Nothing at all. So I'm going to have to just disregard this. I'm going to unhook this. I'm going to put this up. I'm going to get my scope out. And I'm going to start looking at, is this thing even booting, or is it resetting? I guess I could get my logic probe. I'll probably hook up the logic probe and just start looking at some preliminary signals. Yeah. Okay. Well, at least we got power up here. That's good. Okie doke. Alrighty, well, okay. I'll start hooking up my probe. I wonder if this thing's even booting. These, sockets are one thing that are garbage right now, I can tell you. The CPU does not look too healthy. I'm going to have to see if I got any kind of life at all, any clocks or anything. Right now I can't do that. I just wanted to see if I get lucky with getting power up in the vector section. Maybe that was it, but it's not. It looks like this is a pretty serious issue. So, alrighty, let me get the scope out. Okay, I got my scope out, and I'm going to probe the reset pin. And you can see we're resetting. So next thing I need to do is verify that this CPU can get to the ROM and can get to the RAM. And I think first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to verify the ROM. And I really need to really closely inspect this work. And there's random work on this board I just don't trust. I'm going to have to really go over the board under my magnifying glass really good. a couple RAMs. These are probably the CPU's work RAM right here. These two guys right here. And then this is the video RAM, probably. I would suggest. I would think. Vector ROM is right here. It's probably vector RAM. And work RAM, CPU ROM. Yes, I'm resetting right now. So I have to check the path, all the path work, and then verify these guys. Make sure they're good. Inspect this work. So that's what I got ahead of me in the near future. Is I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna concentrate on this back part of the board right here. Get this thing not resetting, and we'll be a lot closer to being fixed. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, I just got through doing some desoldering. Maintenance. The 3 ROMs here removed. I removed those guys. I removed the CPU socket. Removed the vector ROM socket. I removed the sockets that were here for the RAM and the sockets that were up here for the RAM. And I removed this guy right here because I don't like the way that looks, so I wanted to pull that and make sure that there's not a problem there. I still haven't beeped it out and checked it. I will though. So I removed that. I left everything else in. You can see on the back, the flux is really crazy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash this board thoroughly. I'm going to use my 91% alcohol and scrub these spots with it. Get all that flux off the board. That way you can just see, you can see better what's going on without that mess there. So I'll do that. I'm going to wash the board now. I'm going to go over the whole thing actually. I'm going to clean the whole board. And then I'm going to, after I clean the board, I'm going to, scrub those spots, and then I'm going to repopulate the new sockets. I'm going to reuse these sockets that I pulled out for those RAMs. They're new sockets. They're nice sockets. I just wanted to pull them out and look at the traces, clean the board up, and really get a good look at it. This is the junk sockets right here, and those are all the chips that came out. The ROMs, all verified okay. The revision 2 ROMs, they're nasty. I mean, the legs, and it's no wonder this thing didn't work. There's along those sockets, along with those ROMs, there's a fat chance that this thing would work. So I'm going to clean the legs up best I can on the ROMs. And if they break, because they're so fragile, if they do break, then I'll just burn new ROMs. It's no big deal. But I'm going to try to save those. Save myself some ROMs if I can clean those legs up good. So yep, next step. Wash, clean. I'm going to get to that. Okay, I have gone through and replaced the ROM sockets. I cleaned the legs on the ROMs, and then I sprayed them with that electronics lubricant to kind of protect the legs. There's the vector ROM. I got the RAMs back in. I got the soldered back in the sockets. I got a new CPU socket. The 6502, the old one, it was all crusted out. When I pulled it out, one of the legs came right off of it, so I'm gonna have to put a new 6502 in it. This right here is one of the sockets I removed. This third leg up is connected to that leg of this capacitor, which is good. What I don't like is this trace coming through it looks like that through hole is busted. So I'm going to have to fix that through hole right there. And then I'm going to solder the chip in. Okay, so that'll fix that. Excuse me. One thing that's weird is this thing had so much flux on it, I think, or something. It's got like a residue, like a white residue on the side of the board, which, whatever. But you can see there my the soldering. It's much cleaner than it was before. I don't like this white residue. I don't like, but the board's super clean now. It's really nice. So I'm going to take care of this spot right here. I'm going to put a new 6502 in it, and then you know, we'll see what we got. Then from here I can start to actually troubleshoot the board. I got good connections on the ROMs and good connections on the RAMs and the CPU and everything, so that's what we'll do. Okay, and there's the fix. Got a single wire through the through hole and onto the trace, and then soldered through the through hole. It's hard to see with this, but there's a lot of room between those two traces, so we're good to go. I'm going to put the 74LS04 right here. Okay, I'm hooked back up. I just got the dot here, which actually kind of bounces around now and again. What I'm seeing is it's still resetting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check my buses. I'm going to hook up and check all these buses, make sure they're all working properly. And then I think what I'm going to do is just put some good RAM in. RAM that I know is good. I'm probing this 245. This is a data buffer between the CPU and the system, all the RAM and whatnot. And this is where the data comes back to the CPU. And it's not exactly bad, but it's not exactly good either. You can see this top line is what's hooked directly to the CPU, and this is the data coming back to the CPU. And I'd rather this look like that, so I'm going to replace that 245. And this one right here, this 245, also I'm going to replace, because it's worse than this. It's really suspect, so I'm going to replace both of the 245s. These 244s are great, no problem. They're really crisp signals, so I'm leaving them be, but I'm going to replace the two 245s. Okay, I've been doing some poking around, and I was checking some 157 muxes that basically mux together the address bus from the CPU and the DMA addressing that is made by a series of 193 counters. And we'll come over to the bench and okay, DMA is derived from these register file chips, and then that data is loaded into these counters, and it basically, the counters output a DMA address, and then that is muxed right here with these 4 muxes for addressing. And I was probing this here. This LS08 gate ands together a couple of latch signals that are made off of a 42, and there's output here. This is the clock for the counters. The 193 counters have to be clocked to make the DMA addressing bits, and the clock is pin 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's no clock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No clock at all. It starts with this. This goes to this guy right here and clocks this one, and then the carry from this one clocks this one, and the carry from this one clocks this one. So that's how it works. But the original clock that clocks this guy right here comes from this AND gate right here, and you can see on my scope it's stuck low all the time. We should be getting some pulsing here. When both are 1, it'll be 1. So I am going to replace that 08 and see if we can't get these guys counting. And here it is, the LS08 in my chip tester. Bad. I've got it. I got it removed. We're going to put a new one in there and see what happens. Okay, we got the new 08 in the board, and that's 4 and 5 out to 6. So now we got our clock back, and that goes into F5, I believe. Yes, F5, pin 5. So yep, there's our clock on that. So the carry from this should clock this one at a slower speed, and then this one will clock this one at an even slower speed. Okay, we're clocked now. These are counting, and I'm still resetting, so there's still issues. This board's full of issues. Now I want to check K3, which is this guy. Pin 4 still has no activity, it's just low. And some of these address lines are still just hanging out. That one's high, just hanging out high. This one's hanging out high. And this one is also just high. I think there's still issues. Of course there is still issues. We're still resetting. But at least that's fixed. We're clocked now on these. That's good. So the hunt will continue. I still got problems. I'm going to just continue to really look into this. I think the muxes are okay. I've checked the muxes, these 4 muxes right here. Those are okay. It's the inputs getting to them, I believe, is the problem. Or maybe the select line is, I don't know, something's funky with this. These are the DMA pins on 3. Now this is address like 11, I think, which should be doing something because there's ROM at both 7800 and 6800. So address 11 should be toggling. Yeah. I don't know. We'll continue to look. I just got to continue to look. I've still got bad signals. I should check the clocks on these latches. Check all the clocks. Everything that's clocked, I need to keep going through and checking, because that's how I found this one up here. As I checked the clock on these counters, it was dead. So I'll keep searching. Okay, back to the schematic. K6 right here is an LS08. The DMA push comes in on pin 10, and that's fine. It's toggling. Now pin 9 is just high all the time. So that's in, I'm suspicious of this LS32 being high all the time. But right now I'm probing this LS08 since I just found a bad one at K6. And let me bring you over. Here's K6. I'm probing 8, 9, and 10, which this guy right here is DMA push on the top. There's DMA push. This second line, which is this light blue, is coming in from the, it's actually coming in from that OR gate. It's coming in from right here, the LS32, so it's not stuck. Okay. But my output is always low. You know what I'm going to do right now? Because this thing, you see this line right here, that blue line, that is pin 9 right here. Always high. See that? This logic probe is not working right. I like it because it's quiet, but I think I have to get out my other logic probe. Let me hook this thing up. I'm going to unhook this logic probe. Hook this guy up. Let me probe that same line. See that? Yeah. That's another bad LS08. That clocks, this line clocks this 191, which the 191 right here, it has control of the register files. And right now I got no control on the register files. So I'm going to replace K6 and get this counter working so that these register files will work. But yeah, that's a bummer. I like this logic probe too, as it's quiet, but it's no good. So I got to get rid of it. I'm going to throw it in the trash right now. Okay, K6 is removed, and here it is, LS08 K6 fault. You know, I see this a lot. Sometimes you're doing a board And it's like there's a bad batch of chips. LS08 is the winner here today. You know, there might be other bad LS08s. 04s are a really common one too. Yeah, but I don't know. Could have some more bad LS08s on here. Who knows? But we're going to replace this one and see if we can't get somewhere. One of these days, one of these chips I replace is going to take us out of reset. And then I'll be able to hook up my junky oscilloscope and see what we get on the screen. That'll be nice. Okay. Hey guys, check it out. You can see here that does say one coin, one play. This is a crude way of hooking this up. But it's all I got, like I said. The Z output, I believe, is actually working. My intensity doesn't do anything. And I can't really focus in very good. This thing's just an old piece of junk. But you can see it's working. The board is working. I do have to check the sound. But let's go ahead. I'll put it into test. I've got a clip, you know, hooked up for test. I want to ground this. Let me find ground right here. Okay. Here's your test pattern. I don't believe that's putting out an error, but I'm going to check the manual. And like I said, I can't really read that, but I mean, the test pattern looks good. I just have to go through and make sure all the sounds are there. Let's unhook test. Cool. Alrighty, I'm gonna get my pinout out and start. Here, I can do this. Let me unhook this and ground this. And let's do coin. Yep, you can see push start. And start one. Where is start one? Right here. I'm not hearing no sound. There's no sound. Okay. I got no sound. It's running. There is an LM324. I wonder if that thing is just blown out. Where is that? LM324. It's right here. Let me get an LM324 out of the stash. And I'm going to just try to crudely jump it over. See if it does anything. No, there's still nothing, but I think I need to restart it. Oh boy. Start. No, there's still no sound. Okay, I'm gonna have to go through the sound. I do have the speaker hooked up. Yep, I'm gonna have to fix the sound. So I'm gonna put this big thing away and start going through the sound. Okay, I just removed two LM324s, and one of them had a fault. The other one tested okay, but I don't care. There's such a high failure rate on those. I'm going to replace both of them. And that should, I can hear all the sounds. So all the sounds are being generated. They just weren't being amplified properly. So this should fix the board 100%. Okay, I was just kind of looking over the board a little bit. This guy right here is a 10 microfarad tantalum capacitor in the sound section. I don't know if you can see that very well, but that thing is toast. I need to recap this whole sound section. And unfortunately, I don't have any 10 microfarad capacitors to speak of. So I'm going to have to buy some and wait. Okay, I'm going through these 4016s. I pulled all three of them, put them in my IC tester, and they tested okay. I went through and I pulled some old work, and I don't know if you can see this. But, this was an 8-pin socket that was here. I removed the socket, and that is bad right there. Was it making a good connection? It's broke off from the hole. So I don't know if it was making a good connection, but anyway, this was put into the socket like this. So that was a problem. I went through, I did have 1 microfarad capacitors I put in, and I tested all the 10s, and the 10s all tested good, so I just put them all back in the board. Yeah, so I just wanted to pull and test these 4016s. I'm going to go ahead and probably put sockets in there and put them back in there. I also pulled, there was a 7406 right here with a socket. I pulled that socket out because I wanted to look underneath. So I'm going to start putting that back together. Okay, I replaced the 4007 diodes. And I run an AR. I don't know if you can see this or not under here, but I have an AR, an Atari AR set up. It's really dark down there. But I have an AR that I run for my power testing. And what I did was I took it down and I tapped into the 36 volts AC and I sent it up here. And then I just moved the wires on my edge connector over to the 36 volts. See, right there, 36 volts AC. You have to run both lines up, and then you got 36 volts going top and the bottom, and they get rectified and whatnot. So it's working how it should. Yep. So it's running as it would in an actual Asteroids arcade machine with the power. You got the AC coming up and everything. What I'm going to do now is start it up and test some inputs. I got some inputs wrote down right here of what does what. And I'm going to make sure the inputs work. And hopefully I'll be able to call this one good. So let's go ahead and coin it up. Just put a bunch of coins in it. Start a game. I'm going to start 2-player. And let's see, rotate left is J10, 12. Here's J10. 9, 10, 11, 12. You can see my guy is rotating. Rotate right is 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. He's rotating. Okay. Let's go thrust is 14. That's 2 down. Come on. See, he's moving. There he goes. Okay. Let's get some sound. Okay. L10 is right here. Fire is 15. Hear that? Firing. You gotta wait. Guy died. Okay, it was firing. And hyperspace is pin 1. And it worked. I seen him. He took off. So we're all working. All the inputs work. Video works. The sound works. It's kind of hard to hear, but I think it's my setup. You see? All right. Call it good. Thanks for watching this video. This is a little addendum to my repair on this Asteroids board. As you can see, I was pulling my hair out over the sound. The sound was so dim, so low, you couldn't hardly hear it. And I was going through here and replacing glass capacitors. It's all the capacitors. I checked the values. I checked voltage where it was supposed to be on every pin of every IC. And it turned out to be bad caps up here in the power section. So keep that in mind if you've got funky sound or dim sound. As practice, I should have replaced all this at the beginning, but I didn't have the proper caps. I didn't have axial caps, so I didn't replace them. I was going to buy some and wait for them to get in. As you can see, I got tantalum caps in here because I didn't have electrolytic. But that's what it was the caps up there. And this thing has been really fidgety. I didn't have the saucer sound, and it turned out to be the 566, which I was lucky enough to have some. So I was checking on eBay. They're expensive, and you can only get them from China. Well, that's it. Waiting for the saucer to come out. That was the sound that was missing. And it turned out to be this 566 oscillator. There it is.
I even went as far as to rebuild another AR board. This is an actual original Asteroids AR, and I had to put a, because Asteroids came with a inline 4 position plug. I had to pull that out and take one of these and put it in. So I've got 2 ARs now. This one's completely rebuilt. That's what's running the sound and giving me my +5 right now. I've just got the 36 volts AC coming off of this one. So yeah, finally can call this one done.
Hey guys, I'm revisiting an Asteroids board. This is one that I had repaired and sent back, and the board was put in the game, and it was run for a while, and then it started really flaking. So there was something that was weak that did not survive the burn-in. I did the obvious. I replaced the op amps. Didn't seem to be the problem. From what I'm looking at, it looks like a problem in the X circuitry, because you'll notice the Y, the up and down, is stable. It's the left and right. All along this you can see tearing, and yeah, it just looks like the X is going nuts. That's what it looks like to me anyway. The Y, the up and the down seems stable when things float. When they're floating side to side is when they get funky, it seems like. Things going side to side. Things going up and down seem to be okay for the most part. And look at the score. The score stuff up top, the text stuff keeps tearing side to side. So this looks like a problem in the X circuitry. That's where I'm going to look at. And obviously I'll look at the DAC. And then, you know, associated circuitry with the X circuit. And get this thing straightened out. Okay, now after some poking around, and I did find, I have a video on this repair on this Asteroids board, and I found another, just poking around, I found another bad chip. It's E6, which is right here. It's another AND gate. That's the third bad LS08 that I found on this board. This one had one bad gate in it, and it was involved in the reset circuit. It was stuck low. So basically this chip would have prevented this from going into reset, or anyway, it was bad. I replaced it. It wasn't keeping the thing from running, because it's part of the it's just part of the reset circuit. But this right here is a 4066, 4016, 4066, basically the same thing. And I put it in my chip tester, and it pulls it up. Let's try to do a test on this thing. 1. And see, it says okay. This chip is bad, because I put a new one in it, and I have perfect video. The only thing is the video is inverted. And I checked on the schematic, the invert signal comes from these two transistors, and they're connected. The signals from these, the voltage basically that comes out of these is connected right to these 4016s. I think when this went out, it took the transistor out. I'm going to pull it and I'm going to test it out of circuit. But this thing should not be inverted, and it is. And I probed all three pins of this. All 3 pins of this transistor have 8 volts on it. I believe -8 or positive, something like that. Anyway, this transistor's turned on, turning this one off, and this one has to be turned on in order for it to be non-inverted, or that might be backwards. Anyway, this thing should not have a high positive voltage on each pin. So yeah, I'm gonna pull them out and replace them, and hopefully this thing will be fixed for good. I put these DACs back in it. I pulled them out. I put some new ones in there. I was just basically going for easy fixes on this board, because I knew it was up in this section. Something with this section was funky. So, and I took the opportunity to put the proper value caps in it. I had 1000 microfarad caps in it, and I put the proper 470 in it. I replaced all of the op amps, which one of them was actually bad. So, yep, I'm going to replace those 2 transistors, because the video comes up perfect now. The vector comes up perfect. It's just inverted, and it shouldn't be. So let me replace these 2 guys, and then we'll plug it in, and hopefully it won't be inverted. Okay, we're back to good. I will say I replaced the 2 transistors, and it made no difference. It was still flipped. So what I had done was I had a 4066 in this spot. 4016 and 4066 are both quad bilateral switches, but they are not the same, apparently. My guess is the 4066 switches from one to the other, and the 4016 is a reverse direction, because I put a 4016 in now, and that's all I had to do. So this whole problem with this board was this 4016 right here. I'm going to go ahead and put it back in the board, and you'll see. Okay, I take a good one out, and it just kind of goes away. Okay, now we'll put this in, and that's the funkiness that it was doing. That's it right there. And my chip tester says that that chip is good. So you take, grain of salt this thing. At least with the CD stuff, I've never seen this really fail on TTL. Basic 74 LS series TTL. I've never really seen this thing fail. But it failed on this. Now let's take this back out. Put the good one back in. It's my last one, so I got to make sure I put it in the right way. Okay, there it is, back to perfect. And we'll take this bad one that I just took out and put it in my tester. Make sure I put it in right. And there it is. It says 4016 4066. And if I went to actually try 4016, it would say, okay. I think I did that. Yeah, that's so yeah, with the CMOS stuff, apparently not the greatest, because I mean, that's proof right there that chip was bad. And that was one of the first things I did, was I put because that chip was originally socketed. One of the first things I did was I pulled it and I put it in my chip tester. And I said, okay, well, that's good. That's not the problem. So I wasted so much time searching for other stuff. I think these op amps were actually all good, but they tested bad in my tester. I think it's because of the heat from my desoldering gun. But I had desoldered and pulled the 2 DACs. Tried new ones. I'm gonna keep my new ones. You know, there's no need to replace those. Those are pretty reliable, actually. So it was that one part that this thing said was good. Alrighty. I just wanted to document that a little bit. Don't always trust these chip testers, especially on CMOS stuff. You know, like I said, TTL, no big deal. I've never had a problem. But yeah. All right. Now I can get this sent back out again, and hopefully this time it'll last. I tell you what I should do is I should search this board for, I know there's another LS08 right here. I should replace that. I think I will. I'm going to go ahead and replace that 08 because of the problems that I've had 3 bad ones on this board. I think that's the last one. All right. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you on the next one.